Recently, news came up that Destiny might be getting a complete reboot in terms of world, and possibly lore when it comes to Destiny 2. For those of you that haven't been paying attention, rumors are circulating from very reliable sources, like reliable sources that leaked the timeline for the entire Year 1 DLC, including House of Wolves Dark Below and the aforenamed Comet, which is now Taken King, leaked all that information. They leaked information about the April update, and they leaked the information correctly about the Rise of Iron update, are now leaking information again. These same sources are saying that Destiny 2 will more than likely be a complete reboot in terms of lore, world building, and everything else. A lot of people started panicking and flipping shit about this supposed reboot of Destiny 2, and I could see why for a lot of reasons. This game that they've built over the last 2 years, they're just going to destroy it and then build a new one. And I don't necessarily think they're going to do that. One, because Luke Smith is directing it, and Luke's a very smart guy when it comes to story building. But two, that's one way to piss off your fan base, is just say, hey, listen, all this stuff you've loved in these first couple of years, we're going to get rid of all of that and move on to something new. Of course, it was also rumored that Destiny 2 will be coming to PC, and about a year and a half ago, or a year ago roughly, Bungie did have a lot of jobs listing regarding PC development teams, so what they're more than likely trying to do is probably have their own in-house port team, as opposed to having to try to hire an outside source to port it to PC, which might go badly. They'd rather have an internal port team. More expensive, but hell of a lot safer bet when you're trying to please an audience. Bungie's doing it the smart but expensive way, and I mean, when you're dealing with a billion-dollar game, it's not necessarily that expensive, right? So, PC development maybe with this leaked news, and the rumors of starting over fresh. They talked about a lot in this article of how the engine was difficult to work with because it was built around last-gen architecture. Destiny was meant to release a whole year earlier, almost 2 years earlier. Listen, when we got Destiny 1, it was 5 years into the development cycle. A full 5 years. And that was because 3 years in, Activision, the assholes that they are, came and said, listen, no, you don't know what you're doing. Let us take care of this for you. Bungie said, no, we know exactly what we're doing, fuck off. And then Activision's like, listen bitch, we paid you a huge amount of money in a contract. We're telling you what to do now. So Activision told them what to do. This resulted in the huge lawsuit fallout bullshit blah 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 between their composer Martin O'Donnell and the rest of Activision themselves and a little bit of Bungie staff. To be fair though, as much as I love Martin O'Donnell's work and music throughout the years, especially in Halo, and a lot of his original work he did in Destiny is fantastic and absolutely unbelievable, Martin was acting like a child in regards to these, especially from the court logs and documentations. It doesn't really sound like he tries to disprove what he was doing, but he was acting a bit of a child when he wasn't getting his way. For good reason, I think, but in the end, his intentions made the whole first game a complete shit show. Really, what happened, and I actually totally blame it on Activision, because Activision had... Martin had created a bunch of stuff, helped write the story, he helped create music around the story to help... He created music specifically to give the artists ideas of what they should be creating when they're creating this game. The music was called Orbs. And all of these ideas, all the story, everything was just completely scrapped because of Activision. And then Martin O'Donnell started to blackball interviews a little bit and started to be a little bit of a child out in public, saying, you know, the game's terrible, it's got... just being a dick about it and kind of like naysaying it before the game even came out, when he's supposed to be in a public PR relationship as a big figurehead of the studio. Now, I agree, Activision's a dick and they did screw him over in what they did, and I don't like the fact that they're part of this at all. They've kind of tainted one of my favorite gaming companies forever, but I think Bungie is strong enough to make it through the taint of Activision, and the changes that they made to Destiny 2 over the last 2 years, the last 2 expansions, Taken King and Rise of Iron, have proved so that I think, yeah, they can work through the taint of Activision. And yes, I'm sorry, Activision is a taint that you want to get rid of. Listen, Call of Duty could be a great game to everybody, not just 12-year-olds that buy it every year or the casual audience, which is why it sells so many copies, is because it sells to 12-year-olds and the casual audience. Call of Duty could be a great game, again, if it was actually given proper development time and allowed the studios to use new engines and new ideas and reinvent it occasionally, but they don't, and I consider Activision a taint because of that, because they're after Keighley the money. So now that we have the worriments and the explanation of Destiny 1 out of the way, that right there, all in its own, should be reasoning enough. The taint, the issues, Martin O'Donnell, the Activision stepping in and ruining the game, and the Taken King and Rise of Iron, Taken King really more than anything having to be introduced to right a lot of the wrongs that were caused in development because of this. It explains a lot. And it also explains why a fresh start for this game makes sense, why a reboot for this game in a lot of ways makes sense. Now, if you ask me, I do not think, and I think Luke Smith is definitely a smart enough guy to think this as well, they're not going to completely restart the lore. They're going to look at everything that's currently in Destiny 1, and they're going to look at everything that's currently unexplained, which, by the way, is a fucking lot. The amount of story explained versus the amount of story not explained is about as big as the Traveler versus the Earth. The Earth is about 50 times the size of the Traveler in comparison, I think. More like 100, actually. I have like a picture behind me. Yeah, it's like 100... God, I don't know, maybe it's 1,000 times the size of it. It's really fucking big, is the point. The gap in the amount of story that's explained. Things like, what is the Traveler? Never explained. In your very first game, in your game that is supposed to set groundwork for the rest of your universe, a massive thing is never explained, such as what is the Traveler? Where did it come from? Well, we found it on Mars, but that's not where it came from. Because it has existed with the Hive before, along with the Darkness, if you read the Book of Sorrows. What does it do? Why does it do what it do? Is it alive or is it a machine? If it's a machine, who created it? What's inside the Traveler? Apparently Luke Smith does know the answer to that. I think he's bullshitting us, though. Unless... I really hope he's written that far ahead and he has plans for that much in the future, because if he does, he could save the story of Destiny 2. And Destiny mechanically was not a bad game. I mean, listen, Destiny is one of the most solid shooters, first-person shooters that there is on there in the market. And the shooting mechanics alone saved Destiny's ass. Destiny got mediocre reviews, 6 and 7s out of 10 when it released, not because it was a bad shooter. It's still an absolutely great shooter. It got shitty reviews because of its lack of content and story material, and that's what the game was acting like it was trying to focus on. And especially when you compare the story, a known story, of Destiny to Bungie's previous work, such as Halo, it doesn't compare. Halo 1, 2, 3, and Reach's story, if we ignore Halo 4 and 5, because those are travesties, and I don't think 343 should be allowed to touch the Halo property anymore, not talking about that. But if, you look at Halo 1, 2, and 3, the original storyline for Halo 1 alone, think about how much groundwork it laid. It identified who the Covenant are. It identified what the Flood are and where they came from, sort of. It left you a mystery there for 2 and 3 to be explored later on, but it did give you this massive enemy to fight. It established the groundwork for 2 opposing factions and told you everything you need to know about your faction. Destiny 1 does none of that, and it also introduces new factions for you to fight later on. What is the Traveler? Where do the Guardians come from? What is the Darkness? And people will say, oh, well, the Darkness is the Hive or the Vex, and it's like, no. Agents of the Darkness, but not the Darkness. The Amakara, which we know from such armor pieces as Sealed Amakara Grasps, the Amakara are an agent of the Darkness as well. They're almost like a bird-like, dragon-esque species that live in space The Almakara gave the hive, the worm, the infectious maggot that causes the hive to continue on a warpath throughout the galaxy. The hive cut a rift into a space void, into an alternate dimension, Crota did specifically, which is what brought the Vex from an alternate universe into ours. And the Vex threat has largely been ignored, even though they're a supposedly unlimited army. That was actually, and if you don't know what the Vault of Glass is,
The door permanently open now?
it's interesting. So there's all this stuff that's unexplained, and yet we were given the Hive and the Vex to fight, and Siva comes up, and the Fallen. The origins of the Fallen still remain an unexplained mystery. Like, where do they even came from? We know the origins of the Hive now only because of the Taken King, and not even really necessarily the origins of the Hive themselves, but more or less the Hive that we know today. The origins of the Vex, we know they're from another dimension. The origins of the Vex are a complete mystery to which I have a crazy fucking hypothesis about. I'm gonna call it a theory, because it's got a lot of supporting evidence, which is gonna be a whole nother separate lore video later on, but think about all this stuff, and then think about these holes that we have. For instance, the Fallen. It's been proven many times that they point at us and call us the Darkness. The Hive calls us the Darkness? You fucking explain that shit. How can you not explain that shit? Why do the Hive the Fallen. Why do the Fallen call us the Darkness? The dregs can, audio clips, people have proved it over and over. They come running out and pointing at us saying, oh no, it's the Darkness. You can't leave that shit unsolved. You just can't. That's a major plot device. And yet, we have zero idea what any of that means. What about the Vex with the Vault of Glass creating this parallaxing machine that could write the Vex into the physical laws of the universe, actually making the Vex a physical law which you could not disobey? Yeah, they were trying to do that with the Vault of Glass. That's never explained, except until we kill Atheon, obviously, but... And if the Vex were trying to do it once just on Venus, why haven't they done it on Mercury, which they fucking own? And what about Mercury as a whole? It's been said it's been hollowed out. A giant rock planet, well not giant, but a rock planet like Mercury, completely hollowed out. So as far as a story reboot for Destiny, I'm all on board. It needs it. It more than needs it, it deserves it. It deserves a good story. And I think Luke Smith is the guy to do it, because he certainly did well with the Taken King. And you know what? I'm okay with not keeping any of my stuff, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, if Destiny 2 is a really good game, and you enjoy it, you can play it on a daily basis, not get bored of it, have reasons to keep returning to it, and experiencing it with your friends on your platform of choice, how mad are you going to be that your stuff didn't carry over from Destiny 1? Not that mad. That being said, I do wish and hope that they would let some cosmetic things carry over, like shaders and emblems and maybe ships. And maybe even sparrows to that degree. If they keep sparrows in the game, they may take them out completely, you never know, and replace them with something else. But those kinds of things, they're purely cosmetic. They have absolutely zero effect on us bringing our character over from Destiny 1, except people in Destiny 2 that are just now getting in, they're going to see all this shit that we have from Destiny 1, and it's going to be our badges of honor that we've been here since the beginning. Those year one moment of triumphs. They say, yeah, I went through the rough shit. I think that would be nice for it to carry over. I think they could give us at least that much. Give us our shaders, give us our emblems. I don't really think you need to give us anything else. And like I said, at the end of the day, even if they gave us nothing, as long as the game is amazing, I don't really care what they give back to you or not. Anyway guys, I'm Guns, and that's just some thought, something for you to think about. why Destiny needs a reboot. Honestly, would you want them to try to continue to go forward from where they're at right now, to try to explain how fucked up this story is, where the Traveler came from now, what it's for, what the darkness is? I mean, they have all this stuff set in motion and they can't use it anymore. So what are your thoughts about Destiny possibly getting a reboot and coming to PC with new engines, new writing, all that good stuff? I'd love to hear what you think about it. What are your fears and concerns? Because I'm sure Bungie would love to hear that too. I'm Guns. I'm gonna get out of here. See you guys later.